Garden shops sell small bags of biochar for a surprising amount of money. If you heat your home with clean hardwood, you may look at the black pieces left in the stove and think, why should I buy biochar when I already have charcoal? That is a fair question. But do not carry a bucket from the fireplace and empty it straight into your vegetable bed. Fireplace charcoal is not the same as a tested bag of commercial biochar. It may contain too much ash, half-burned wood, tar, or other residues. Even clean char can change the soil in ways you did not expect. Today I will show you a safer way to prepare clean hardwood char for the garden. We will sort it, wet it, crush it, mix it with compost, and test it on a small area before using more. The important step is simple. Do not treat charcoal as plant food. Treat it as a container that can hold some water and nutrients. If the container is empty, it offers little to a hungry plant. If we first mix it with mature compost, it enters the soil with something useful around it. Before we begin, there is one thing you should know. Biochar does not work the same way in every garden. Its effect depends on the wood, the way it was burned, the amount of ash in it, the soil, the crop, and the quantity you add. In some soils, it may improve water holding or help retain nutrients. In others, it may do little. A poor quality char or an excessive dose may even slow plant growth. So this is not a promise of a larger harvest. It is a careful method for gardeners who want to experiment without risking an entire bed. First, let us separate three things that are often confused. Wood ash is the pale gray or white powder left after a fire. It contains minerals and is strongly alkaline. It can raise soil pH quickly. Charcoal is the black material that remains when wood has not burned completely to ash. Commercial biochar is charcoal made under controlled conditions for use in soil. A good product should tell you what it was made from and how it should be applied. The black pieces from your own fire are not automatically garden-safe biochar. Their quality is unknown. That does not mean they are always useless. It means we must be selective and cautious. Only collect char from clean, untreated wood. Never use painted, stained, glued, pressure-treated, or preserved timber. Do not use plywood, particle board, construction waste, rubbish, coal, or barbecue briquettes. These materials may contain glues, salts, lighter fluid, or other substances that do not belong in a food garden. If you do not know where the wood came from, do not use the remains on vegetables. Wait until the fire has been out for a long time. A black piece can hide a live ember inside even when its surface looks cold. Move the material into a metal container and keep it away from buildings and anything that can burn. Check it again before handling or storing it. Now sort the char from the ash. Wear gloves. If the material is dry and dusty, wear a well-fitting dust mask and work outside. Fine charcoal dust is easy to breathe in, and it spreads everywhere. The safest way to control the dust is to dampen the char before crushing it. Use a simple screen or pick through the material by hand. Keep the solid black pieces. Remove nails, stones, half-burned rubbish, and large amounts of pale ash. A small trace of ash is difficult to avoid. That is different from adding a whole bucket of it. If your soil is already alkaline, be especially careful. Char and ash can both push the pH higher, although the effect varies greatly from one material to another. Gardeners growing blueberries, rhododendrons, or other plants that prefer acidic soil should not add unknown fireplace char without testing the soil and the material first. Once the char is damp, break the largest pieces into smaller ones. You do not need to turn it into black flour. Dust is unpleasant to handle and can blow away. Pieces ranging from coarse crumbs to small gravel are easier to mix through compost and soil. Put the damp char in a strong sack or a covered container. Crush it gently with a wooden block or tamper. Stop when most of the pieces are small enough to spread evenly. Why break it up at all? Smaller pieces give the material more contact with moist compost and soil. Biochar has a large internal surface with many pores. Those surfaces can interact with water, dissolved compounds, and soil organisms. But the common claim that every pore instantly fills with fertilizer is too simple. Different chars behave differently. Some hold certain nutrients well, others do not. The chemistry also changes with pH and with the temperature at which the char was formed. That is why I prefer a practical rule. Mix unknown homemade char with mature compost before it reaches plant roots. You may hear this called charging or inoculating biochar. The word sounds technical, but the job is simple. We are wetting the char and keeping it in close contact with compost, nutrients, and microbes before adding it to a bed. There is no magic liquid and no scientifically proven countdown that works for every char. You do not need an ancient recipe. You do not need exactly 14 days. You do not need comfrey. Here is a cautious home method. Take 1 bucket of damp, crushed char and mix it with roughly 1 bucket of mature compost. The compost should smell earthy. It should not be hot, slimy, or full of fresh kitchen waste. Finished compost is easier and safer to use around roots. Moisten the mixture until it feels like a wrung-out sponge. It should be damp throughout, but not sitting in a pool of water. If you already make a mild liquid fertilizer, you can use some of it as part of the water. Follow the normal dilution instructions for that fertilizer. More is not better. Cover the mixture loosely so it stays moist, but can still exchange air. Turn it once or twice while it rests. Leaving it in contact with mature compost for a few weeks is a simple, conservative garden practice. This is not because a pore suddenly changes on a particular day. The waiting time simply gives the char and compost time to mix, wet evenly, and settle together. If you are not in a hurry, there is an even easier method. Add small amounts of damp, crushed char to an active compost pile. Spread it in thin layers instead of dumping it in one black lump. Then let the compost finish normally. When the pile is cooled and the contents look and smell like finished compost, the char will already be distributed through it. This method has another advantage. You apply the char together with organic matter instead of placing a concentrated layer in the root zone. What about comfrey tea? You can use diluted comfrey feed to moisten the char and compost mixture if comfrey is already part of your garden routine, but it is optional. It is not the secret that makes biochar work. Comfrey liquid is usually made by allowing cut leaves to break down in water. The result can be very concentrated, and it often smells strong. It should be diluted before it is used around plants. A commonly recommended garden dilution is about 1 part comfrey liquid to 10 parts water, but the strength of homemade mixtures varies. Do not drink comfrey liquid or use the plant as a homemade internal medicine. Comfrey contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can harm the liver when swallowed. For this project, ordinary water and mature compost are enough. Keeping the method simple also makes it easier to repeat. Now we come to the part where many gardeners create problems. There is no single home garden dose that is correct for every soil and every char. The bulk density of char varies. Soil pH varies. Crops respond differently. A sandy bed in a wet climate is not the same as a heavy clay bed in a dry one. Do not cover the whole garden on your first attempt. Choose a small test area. Keep a similar area beside it untreated. Add a modest amount of the finished char and compost mixture to the test soil and mix it into the upper root zone. Do not leave it as a thick black layer. Then grow the same crop in both areas. Water them in the same way. Feed them in the same way. Watch germination, leaf color, growth, wilting, and harvest. This simple comparison will tell you more about your own material than a dramatic promise on a bag or in a video. If the plants in the test area grow normally or better, you can slowly expand the treated area in a later season. If they turn pale, grow slowly, or develop signs of stress, stop. Do not solve the problem by adding more char. Check soil moisture and pH. Consider whether too much ash entered the mix. Continue caring for the bed with compost according to the needs of the crop. Remember that char is not a complete fertilizer. It does not replace compost. It does not provide every nutrient a vegetable needs. It does not remove the need to observe your soil. Its carbon structure may remain in the ground for a long time, but that does not mean one application feeds plants for a century. Nutrients are still taken up by crops, moved by water, and cycled by soil life. A better way to think about char is as part of the soil structure. Compost and fertilizer provide food. Char may help hold or exchange some of that material, depending on its properties and the soil around it. This distinction matters because it prevents the most common mistake, expecting a black material to act like a bag of plant food. There is also no need to make the story more mysterious than it is. People have added charcoal and burned organic material to soils in different places for a very long time. But that history does not prove that every old fireplace produced safe, high-quality biochar. It also does not prove that one traditional method works in every modern garden. We can respect old practices while still testing what we do today. Let us walk through the whole method once more. First, use only char from clean, untreated hardwood. If you are unsure about the wood, leave it out of the food garden. Second, make certain every ember is completely cold. Store it in a metal container away from anything that can burn. Third, separate the black char from as much pale ash as possible. Fourth, dampen the char before crushing it. Protect your lungs from dust and keep the pieces coarse rather than powdery. Fifth, mix the damp char with mature compost. Keep the mixture moist and allow it to rest together. Or add small amounts to a working compost pile and wait until the compost is finished. Sixth, test the finished mixture on a small section of one bed. Keep an untreated comparison area. Finally, judge the result by the plants in your soil, not by a universal promise. This process is slower than throwing Fireplace remains straight onto the ground, but it gives you several chances to notice a problem before it reaches your vegetables. It also turns a vague garden trick into a real experiment. Write down what wood you burned. Note how much ash was present. Record how you mixed the char with compost and which crop you planted. Take a photograph of the test and control areas every 2 weeks at harvest. Compare the plants and the yield. If the difference is small, be honest about it. A useful garden method does not need a miracle result. Sometimes the greatest benefit is not a larger harvest in the first season. It may be easier handling of compost, a change in moisture, or no visible benefit at all. That information still has value. It helps you decide whether the work is worth repeating. There is one final question. Should everyone make garden char from a fireplace? No. If your fire burns mixed materials, if you cannot separate the ash, or if you do not know what the wood was treated with, buy a tested product or skip biochar entirely. Your garden does not need biochar to be healthy. Regular additions of mature compost, keeping the soil covered, growing a range of plants, and avoiding unnecessary disturbance are already strong foundations. Biochar is an optional tool. It is not a requirement, and it is not magic. But if you have clean hardwood char and you want to test it, prepare it carefully. Wet it. Mix it with finished compost. Start small. Compare the result. That is, the step garden shops often cannot put on the front of a bag because the honest answer depends on your soil. Before you put fireplace charcoal in the garden, do this first. Turn it from an unknown fire residue into a controlled, small-scale compost experiment. If you have tried charcoal or biochar in your own garden, tell me what soil you have, what crop you tested, and what happened. A successful result is useful, but so is a failed one when we know the details. Good gardening is not about following the loudest claim. It is about watching closely, changing one thing at a time, and learning from the ground in front of you.